Welcome back to Weekend Breakfast. The time's 7:22 now on Saturday, September the 9th. I'm asking this morning, should we have a Minister for Men? Renee and I are increasingly convinced we probably do. The number 0344 499 1000. Text the word talking. You're on the phone. Text the word talking. We just saw you on the phone. Text the word talking your message to 87222. You can also tweet us at TalkTV. Good morning, says Jenny in Milton Keynes, one of our regulars. Good morning, Jenny. TV Double Dog Delight. It's Satire Day with David, who seems very bullish this morning. I certainly am.
Bullish by name.
Bullish by name, indeed. Renee's dress is beautiful. Never seen her look so glamorous, especially with the tumbled hair. Dear Deluded Rishi has returned without emoji.com of a trade deal. No visas, don't believe him, says Jenny. I think a lot of people might agree with that. Dan in Kent, another of our regulars. Good morning, David and Renee. I'm very concerned about Putin bringing the war to our shores indirectly. This escapee, talking about the escapee from Wandsworth, is a dangerous bomb-building Iranian that may have no intention of leaving. It's all far too clumsy. And if he's part of a terror network, that's very worrying. He and the cell needs to be found now. I think the police agree with you too, and of course they're putting out a reward, I think £20,000, I think I read this morning, for anyone who can lead to the arrest of that escapee. Lots of other messages as well about the Indian trade deal. Vincent says, bring all the family over to study because grandma needs a new hip and granddad needs a new knee. Very, very pithy. This is also rather brilliant. Good morning, David and Renee. I was in Wandsworth prison for the last part of my prison sentence, and as I understood, the majority of people who worked in the kitchen were from the sex offender and special protection wing. They call it being on numbers. I don't understand why this man was firstly working in the kitchen, as it's a job that must be earned through good behaviour and trust. The prison could now say who authorised him to work in the kitchen. It seems to me the prison is covering up, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he had help from the inside or from the outside, which is what we said.
Absolutely, 100%. I think it's lovely. I just want to say that we get people who have been to prison who now engage with us and tell us about this, because I think unless you've been there, you could never even imagine what goes on inside.
Exactly right. Keep all of those coming in, please. Oh, John in Lincolnshire as well, one of our regulars as well. John in Lincolnshire said, good morning, doctors, just catching up after a late start. Oh, good. You call Mike Yarwood dying at a young age. I did indeed, at the young age of 82. We were contemporaries, means I might survive into old age. Well, jolly good. I think it's all about growing old disgracefully, and I'm all in favour of that, aren't you?
Absolutely, 100%. And then we see today that Nancy Pelosi, age 83, is going to run again.
She looks good, actually.
I know.
Don't you think? I mean,
look at the American politicians, though. They're all octogenarians.
They're not in the first flush of youth, are they? No, exactly right. Joining us now this morning, Emma Wolfe, who's a writer, journalist and broadcaster, to review this morning's papers. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're also looking terribly glamorous.
Old. I couldn't possibly comment. Some of us never age.
Well, quite. Yes, quite.
You do see those American politicians just grinding on, and you think, well, something's holding them all together.
But also, the thing is, for a country of, 300 million people, is that the best you've got?
I know. Is that
Apparently so.
literally... Have you got two guys in their late 70s, early 80s? Is that the best you can come up with? I was all excited about Ramaswamy for a couple of weeks, and now I think he's an absolute fool. So, I mean, where is the hope? He says a lot of things that completely resonate, and then I just don't. I find him extremely irritating, preachy, smug. He thinks he's absolutely. He thinks he's got it. He's got it right. There's something irritating about him.
Don't you need to feel that, though, to be a politician? Do you not need to feel that you're right and you have it, and,
There's a way of doing it. There's a way of doing it.
So you don't think he's humble enough? I mean, he's self-made,
I don't want
isn't
humble. Yes, he's self-made. I don't want humble. I don't want to be preached at. And there's something too shiny about him. And I don't mind, shiny.
What's wrong with shiny?
No, I don't mind shiny. I don't mind sort of, polished politicians. You need that in the modern age. I don't like Ramaswamy. He's gone off, and I don't think he's going to progress, actually. I'm surprised.
Well, no, because he's not old enough.
He's not old enough, so maybe, maybe next time. Maybe.
Well,
he's not 82.
But don't we want young people? I agree with you. But surely what the States needs is actually, I think he's very impressive. I think he's young. He's obviously vivacious. He's made his own way. He's appealing to middle America, I think, very much so.
And he's appealing to a vote that they really need to appeal to now because it's the biggest growing
that's right,
vote
the ethnic
amongst
vote,
the Asian
exactly.
vote.
Well, in fact, that's right, and that's going to be very important in this election. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about anyway. We digress. So let's start with the front page of the Daily Mail because this is a complicated story, but tell us about it.
Well, this is an interview on the front page of the Daily Mail. I'll fight doctors who say I should be left to die. It's a 19-year-old girl who has a syndrome, which I'm sure you guys can explain a bit better, mitochondrial depletion syndrome, and doctors say is actively dying. And she says, no, I want to live. I want to join clinical trials in North America. I want to be given a chance to live. I don't know enough about what she's got and what it does.
OK, so firstly, that is a very serious disease and she is actively dying. There is no doubt about it. And it's very complex because your mitochondria, David says mitochondria,
that's a really weird pronunciation, but anyway,
actually only comes from your mother, believe it or not, in the cells, and it is the engine of a cell. Without it, you will die. You can't live because your cells can't live. Having said that, what this case turns on is her capacity to make the decision. It has gone to court and the judge has said that she does not have capacity to understand what the doctors are saying. Now, this is a girl who is not only awake and talking, she's given an interview, which is on the front page of the Daily Mail today, very clearly expressing what disease she's got, why she's so ill.
So she's cognizant?
100%. But because the judge has ruled that she doesn't have capacity, that means the doctors can act in her best interests, which the doctors feel is turning off her life support machine. Now, she's not even saying, can I stay in the UK, please, and you pay to keep me alive? She's saying, can I go to Canada, please, where they have a treatment which is experimental, but I'd like to try it. It is a bizarre ethical case which I find very difficult to get my head around because when we're dealing with a child like Charlie, who recently had his life support machine turned off by doctors because he was brain dead, it's very different.
That's very different.
Very different. This is somebody who is speaking.
What do you think?
Well, I also think that probably she would be of benefit to clinical trials if her disease is progressive, that there may be a benefit to her being a part of that in terms of science, in terms of,
learning,
kind of medical science, But also this isn't a case like... as you say, children or older people where they say, do not resuscitate. It isn't like that. This is a woman in the prime of her, a young woman who is very eloquent, very articulate, clearly very passionate about living and wanting to live. So I think that, yes, we should be listening to her.
So by turning it off, they will kill her?
It feels more like killing her.
They will kill her.
Than withdrawing
her
treatment.
death, because at the moment her death is coming. She's very, very sick, OK?
But you and I know we have patients who are also on life support with who are, say, or not brainstem dead, but we know that they're impaired, and actually
who will never function again.
Who will never function. Basically, what I'm saying is that there are stronger cases to turn off life support machines than this one.
Oh, there are much stronger cases, and I think what this comes down to is: do we have a right? We have a right to live. Do we have a right for the health service to keep us alive? It's a different question, isn't it?
It's a very different question. Equally, the same question is: do we have a right to die?
Exactly.
And all of these things are now starting to come out, and it's an ethical minefield, but I feel very uncomfortable with this.
I find it very interesting that she wants to go to Canada for this treatment, because Canada have just legalised over the last 5 years sort of a mass euthanasia project for anyone with any condition, if they so choose, from the elderly to people with mental health conditions.
And what's the safeguarding? 2 doctors?
It seems that it's quite straightforward. It's not something that you have to fight very hard for in Canada.
Well, at least they're taking a more grown-up approach, though, to life and death. In this country, we're just so terrified of it. We're not talking about it. And then people die, and we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know about death. We don't know about dying.
We have no idea.
We just have no idea. As you say, people on life support machines just carrying on being on life support machines with no hope at all. Probably no proper discussions with the family about what's going on and what the prognosis is, and just... This woman is at least standing up for it and saying, I want to keep going. OK, she's actively dying, but I want to have a chance.
I have looked after a young man in his 30s who was in a horrific road traffic accident. In my opinion, they should not have fought so hard at the roadside to revive him, because he was clearly dead and he was completely on life support. GCS, which is how cognitive you are, of 3.
Oh, so you're dead.
And his wife used to come with his children.
It starts at 3, basically.
His wife used to come every day with children. and clean his mouth out and turn him over. He was dead, effectively, with a machine keeping him alive. Now, we, as a state, were paying for that. It was in a state home. But apparently this young woman who's talking, we can't
Who's
keep alive.
clearly not dead.
Yeah.
And you know, I was taught by an amazing woman called Carmel Coulter, who was a palliative care doctor, and she talked a great deal about having a great death.
Yes.
And I think that, and it stayed with me all these years later, because as you rightly say, we don't talk about death. And we need to talk about it. And how do you want to die? What's the best way to do it?
Exactly.
How are you going to celebrate your life?
Well, the book to read on that, of course, is Being Mortal by Ethel Gawundi.
I was just thinking a year or two ago when my father was dying at UCH, and it became clear over the last week that they weren't feeding him or giving him water anymore in the family. And I said to my mum, you know, which is kind of the what is it, the Liverpool pathway, but it's kind of, you know, no, I understood it was end of life, but even that we couldn't say to the doctors, okay, so now we're not doing anything, now this means he's dying. You know, we just couldn't have that conversation, and we all had it inside us, thinking, well, if he's not being given anything, then he must be really dying. You know, just
a very good friend of mine was put on the Liverpool care pathway in a hospital that I won't name, and they were effectively just killing her, and I went to see her. She clearly had, you know, a week or so left. And I said, what do you want? And she said, a coffee. And I went to Starbucks and I bought her a coffee, and she devoured it. And the nurse said to me, what are you doing? You're going to give her pneumonia. I said,
she's dying.
I said, you're not treating her. You're not even giving her water. So if she wants a coffee, she's having a coffee.
Totally. If she wants a gin and tonic, give her a gin and tonic.
Exactly. And it's extremely upsetting for a family to think that their loved one is basically dying of thirst. I mean, you know, even things like a little bit of ice cube or a coffee or whatever they're dying, it's not going to...
It's appalling. Let's move on, shall we? And talk about... this is a really, really fascinating story, isn't it, in the Times? Go on.
Yeah, well, I thought it was really interesting. So this is about the sort of advances of artificial intelligence in the field of IVF. So... front page of the Times, and they've got a lovely picture of a lady who has a baby through IVF. A couple of her embryos failed, and then she had a little boy. And they're just talking about the fact that there's this artificial intelligence, which I'm sort of against. I think artificial intelligence... Oh, yeah.
You can't be against it.
I am. Well, what happens to people? I mean, you know, already there are no people left in our supermarket.
We've talked about this. It's about having parameters and regulation and all that kind of stuff.
But even the people that invented AI are saying, look, it's raging out of control. So I'm anti-AI, but I think this is really clever.
No, you're anti-uncontrolled AI.
I'm anti-robots doing things that human beings
But that is progress.
I don't care. I don't like phones.
I don't want progress.
I don't want phones and screens and all this newfangled stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. Well, where's it got us, David? Where's it got us?
Well, so...
Look around you. Have you had a conversation with someone on a bus recently? No.
Yes.
Because we're all staring at screens.
No, we're not. Well, it depends on your life and your lifestyle. No, I talk to everyone, but then, you know, I'm a bit odd.
I think this is a really interesting story, and I had a conversation with a patient the other week, actually, who'd had donor eggs which had failed twice, which is unusual. She had it done in this country. I said to Emma before, I know that if you go abroad for donor eggs, they do something called PGD or PGDS, where at day 3 they take one cell out of the embryo and they check it for chromosomal abnormalities. And I have a patient who had 12 embryos that all looked like they were grade A embryos, which is what you get told here. They're all AA or AAA. Yeah. Only 2 of them were chromosomally sound. So if the other 10 had been implanted, that IVF would have failed. So if the AI can do that, we increase the rates of success.
Massively.
And I don't think women understand that the rates of success for IVF are minuscule. They're 20%.
So therefore, does that change your opinion?
But just, no. I was just saying AI. I was saying, as an aside, I'm anti it, but I think this is brilliant. As someone who has been through IVF, each time you put in an embryo, it's another 3 months. It's a lot of cost.
Emotional cost.
The drugs that you're pumping into yourself. If you can, it's all about the embryo. It's all about, well, the good quality eggs, the good quality sperm, which makes the embryo for people who aren't doctors. It's about getting the best embryo. It's about pushing it on from day 3 to day 5, then popping it back in. Each time you do that, you increase your chances massively. So I flew to Spain once, had IVF and didn't work, and then I flew back again and had my baby boy. So I think IVF is an amazing thing. I don't think it's mutant science or any of that. But I think this is really exciting because what this AI tool is doing is picking the best ones rather than wasting all that time, all that kind of, the emotional kind of toll that it takes on women. So good for AI in this case.
Good, we all agree. Fine, let's move on to The Guardian. This is another great story. This is about COVID jabs. Here we go again. Actually, we're going to talk about this later, about the role of Pirola, this new variant, Pirola.
About 2 people in the... I think 2 people in the UK have been detected with it. Last time I checked. 5. Well, there are many more people.
No, it's a surge.
It's a surge. And we should all panic.
5 people in this country.
Let's all panic and run for a jab.
There are other things that hundreds, thousands of people have. 5
So
people.
what's the story?
The story is that MPs are saying, it shouldn't just be for the over 65s, it should be for the over 50s. That the NHS, this bloody phrase, this is going to put pressure on the...
Or any other word. It's a bit early for that word.
On
Apologies.
the NHS, and it's going to cause more sickness amongst the workforce. We're heading for winter. Let's have an NHS under pressure from COVID. We just need to get on and
do you know what we need to do? We need to stop testing for it, and then we won't have people going off because they've got COVID.
See, I have this conversation here, and people go and test for COVID, and I say, why are you testing for COVID? Literally. What does that actually achieve? Does it change your outcome? Does it change your management?
It tells you what's causing your cold, because we now know that since Omicron, COVID has been, really, for most people, and of course there are going to be 1 or 2 more than that, who are seriously ill, but for most people, it is a cold. Let us not forget that for some people, even a cold is dangerous.
Of course.
Exactly.
So isn't this about risk stratification and making sure that those at high risk get it, and the rest of us are left alone? If they want it, right.
If they want it.
Hasn't it always been, can we protect the vulnerable? Can we protect the people who are at high risk?
No, it wasn't.
And stop limiting and ruining everybody else's... I mean, literally ruining. Look at young people. Look at education. Look at people's mental health. Look at the workforce. Look at the economy. Haven't we done enough damage now?
But isn't this drip, drip, drip? This is my concern. Because we're starting to see the Health and Security Agency saying, it's really worrying. There are 35 mutations. And I can see this being ramped up.
I know. As we come into winter, as there are so many problems with the NHS, let's blame it on COVID again.
Can we also not forget that these vaccines, which have been in production for, ever, aren't designed to deal with Parola anyway. They're designed to deal with the old COVID. I am seeing people in my surgery...
Well, so they say there's crossover. This is what I was reading this morning. They say the crossover is really good, but actually they also say that Parola is nowhere near as dangerous as the others. So therefore, why are we vaccinating?
And I am seeing people who have had 5 vaccines who have got COVID.
I know.
Friend of mine was a vaccinator, was vaccinating other people, was training for a marathon, had the Pfizer jab, had the second Pfizer jab, literally couldn't, and was running regularly 26 miles, literally, young, fit bloke, couldn't get his heart rate up above whatever it is, 100. Really quite serious outcomes from those vaccines.
We can't say for legal reasons there's cause and effect, because I can't say that, but anecdotally there are a lot of stories.
Well, on Emma's friend we can't, but there are people now who we know legally have died from the vaccine, and we know that legally people have been damaged through myocarditis.
Which my mum had.
And I have a patient who's seriously damaged. So those
no more vaccines, no more boosters, no way. Absolutely not. They're not controlling our lives anymore.
No, but I do think if people want to have it...
Yes, it's absolutely
if people want to have it, that's absolutely fine.
Well, it's the same with the flu jab.
Can we just stop pushing it down people's throats?
Yes.
Let's just move on very quickly, because time is tight. And this is, again, something we're going to talk about later. What's the front page of the Telegraph?
Telegraph. Net zero obsession has fuelled inflation. So this is the former governor.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also think this is the Bank of England blaming everybody but themselves.
No, he goes on to say, he actually, what he does, the former Chancellor, the former head, governor of the...
Mervyn King.
This is Mervyn King.
Yeah.
He basically says that the bank's priorities are completely wrong, and they have far too much remit, and they're obsessed with net zero.
I know, but I can see Andrew Bailey also jumping on this and going, we've got too many responsibilities. OK, their primary goal is to keep inflation at 2%. It's been raging out of control for months.
So they're 400% out.
They're 400% out. So it's now,
really
even
good.
in July, it was at 7%, but it's been, food price inflation is 17, 18%. So anyway, Mervyn King is saying...
And people feel it.
People are feeling it. This is, we're coming into winter again.
Yeah.
Fuel prices are still very, very high. Food prices are very, very high. Transport, rent costs, mortgage, all of that. Those are the things that matter. Not Jeremy Hunt saying, everything's good, everything's looking good. No, that's not the real world. It's the real world. Do people feel richer? No. Do people feel poorer? Are they struggling? Yes.
But don't forget, in this real world, we have this week passed an energy bill that has been read 3 times and gone through that says that ministers will now have the power to put you in prison for up to 12 months if you do not go with whatever the rule is for a smart meter, a boiler, an EPC certificate for your home.
That they are trying to enforce forcible entry into people's home. That's the latest on smart meters.
But I just don't. It's such an authoritarian, dictatorial society, and people are oblivious to what's going on. But I don't understand how the politicians who believe they're libertarians can allow this to happen.
Something broke over the lockdown. Something broke, and people. It was when we started realising that we were not allowed to leave our homes. There was one day I was pregnant and walking under the window of the neighbour's house so that I could go out, and I realised what is going on. You know, I mean, we sort of crept into it, and then Boris was standing there on a screen telling us this has happened. We cannot. I know we've said it a million times, but I think it's worth remembering.
It is, and also I remember. So my sister lives.
Do this.
Yeah, my sister lives across a field from me, so I left my phone in my house so that I could go and see my sister.
You know you'll be arrested after the show, don't you?
I might have done, allegedly. But the point is,
on Christmas Day we climbed.
But I had no food because I wasn't allowed out.
And all that nonsense about bubbles. But on Christmas Day, we climbed over my sister's back fence. They can arrest me now. We climbed over her back fence to celebrate Christmas with some family members.
I mean, Emma was a woman pregnant in COVID.
I was pregnant on my own.
Those women and those babies have been harmed beyond belief.
And just very quickly, I have to go to a break. We miss you, Granny.
Yeah, Queen's anniversary. Do we think? I think Charles has had a pretty good first year. I mean, I think, you know, steady as it goes with a crazy family that he's got, in and out. Can't decide whether they want to be. I mean, he has had a lot to deal with, and he's got to this job finally, pretty old. And someone yesterday in the papers was saying he looks younger, and he does.
He does.
He's got a bit of a bounce. He's obviously doing something right.
He's got a purpose.
He's got a purpose in his life. I think Camilla's all right. She's not suffering too much. You know, she's not kind of too... Yeah, I think
But this goes back, actually, to Mike Yarwood being 82. And actually, with older people, if you give them a purpose, they are younger. They feel they have something to do. I mean, it's really
But I think
good.
it's the same with everybody. I think for mental health, I think if you've got a job and something to do, or even exercise or whatever...
I gave my mum Alice when she was 76 and said, you are now her paid nanny.
You're evil, though.
So
You're really, really evil. It's her birthday, isn't it, Alice?
Alice, we're having a party for her birthday tomorrow. It's a little bit after the event. She's like the Queen. She has many birthdays.
Like your mother. Thank you so much, Emma. Really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Right, time for a break. After the break, it's all the latest sporting headlines with Mr. Tom Clayton. This is TalkTV.